the afternoon session with the second plenary talk. And I would, at this point, hand over to the moderator, who will introduce our plenary speaker, Dr. Oyebanji.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bukolo Oyebanji once again from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. I'll be introducing our speaker for this session. Dr. Olutunde is a lecturer, researcher in the Department of Animal Breeding and Genetics, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. He received the World Bank Center of Excellence in Agricultural Development and Sustainable Environment Scholarship to pursue his PhD in 2014. He's a member of the university's Federation for Animal Welfare, UFAW, and the International Society of Applied Ethology. His research interests include livestock genetics, behavior, and welfare. He has published more than 30 articles in reputable journals. He's currently a postdoctoral fellow at Department of Animal Sciences, Purdue University, West Lafayette, USA. He loves working on the behavioral genetics of poultry species, especially turkeys and chickens. He is particularly interested in using genetics to assess positive affective states in poultry species.
Once again, I'm Durosaro Samuel, and I will be talking about assessment of positive affective state in farm animals, the possibility, the progress, and problems. Today, for my plenary talk, I want you to be expectant. And what do you expect? I will be talking on animal welfare, the measurement of animal welfare, how to measure affective state, what affective state is. Then we are going to look at assessment of affective state in farm animals. Then I'm going to talk about positive affective states. I want you to anticipate when I start talking about assessment of a positive affective state. Then I will be talking about the possibility, progress, and problems of assessment of positive affective state. Then there is a need for collaboration. Then I will also talk about that. So I need you to be expectant, and I want the discussion to be a bit interactive. Once in a while, I'll be asking some questions which I will want some people to respond in the chat box. So if we look at the title of my presentation, I know a lot of people will have forgotten what the title is. So the title again is Assessment of Positive Affective State in Farm Animals, the possibility, the progress, and the problem. So let's look at the keywords in the title. I think this is just my way of talking because I'm a teacher. So let's look at the keywords now. The major keywords, I think they are just 6. The assessment, positive affective state, farm animals, possibility, progress, and problems. So if we look at the dictionary meaning, so what is assessment? Assessment means to evaluate. So it means we are going to evaluate positive affective state in farm animals. To appraise, we are going to make judgments, and we are going to see how affective state in farm animals can be estimated. Then we'll look at what positive affective state is. Cheerfulness, energy, pride, and joy. It means the farm animals must be proud of who they are. So that's positive affective state. They have to be cheerful like human beings. Though they may not be able to smile and laugh like us, but they should be able to do some things that will make us know that they are really joyful. So another keyword is farm animals. Cattle, sheep, goat, pig, poultry, and we can always fill in the rest. Of recent, I just know that buffaloes are also farm animals. I didn't know this until I was trying to publish a paper, and one of the reviewers was asking me about buffaloes. So possibility, what does possibility mean? Something that is likely going to happen. So possibility is all about likelihood. Then progress. Progress is about onward, forward movement towards the destination, and problems. When we talk about problem, there is one thing I want us to know. We need to overcome problems. So problems means harmful, needing to be dealt with, and we need to overcome all these problems. So we need to overcome the problem in the assessment of positive affective state in farm animals. So I will start by talking about animal welfare. So what is animal welfare? Animal welfare is how the animal is coping with its environment. And when we talk about environment, we are talking about so many things and anything. So environment is just the condition in which the animal lives. And when we talk about environment, we are trying to talk about temperature. Is depend or the band too hot for the animal. We talk about humidity. Is the environment humid or not? We talk about the wind, day length, oxygen. Do we have enough oxygen in the pen or in the barn? In the US, they use barn. I think in Nigeria, we use pen. Then we have to look at the level of ammonia. Do we have a moderate level? If it is too much, I think it is harmful to the animals. It's also harmful to the handlers. Then we look at the elevation, soil. Oh, you may think, what about soil? Soil for animals that graze. Don't forget, we are going to have some pathogens in the soil. We also have some nutrients. On the soil is where the plants that the ruminant graze grow. We have the predators. Those are the ones that would not want the farmers to enjoy their animals. Then we have the parasites, the other animals. And when we talk about the other animals, you see that we are talking about the same species, or we are talking about different species. And we also have humans. And if we talk about environment, this leads to many interactions. We have animal-animal interaction. We have human-animal interaction, animal-soil interaction, animal-hair interaction, and many more. So animal welfare is encompassing. And when we talk about animal welfare, we are talking about the relationship between the animal and the environment. So what are the indicators of good welfare? The indicators are basically 5. We look at the health of the animals. And when I talk about animal, I'm talking about the farm animals. Now, sometimes I may even call them livestock. So we look at the nutrition, their safety, the behavior, and the state. So for their health, animals must be healthy. Then for nutrition, they must be well nourished. And when I talk about nutrition, I'm talking about the food and the water that we are giving to the animals. We are not supposed to give water that we cannot drink to our animals. So we need to give them potable water. And safety, they need to be safe wherever they are, whether they are in the pen, whether they are grazing, and when we are handling them, they need to be safe. Those are indicators of good welfare. Then we talk about their behavior. We must give them chance to express their natural behavior. That is so important. Then we look at their states, the mental states. So they must be free from pain, fear. So this other side should be fear and distress. And if we look at all these 5 entities, all of them fall under freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury, and disease, freedom from fear and distress, and expression of natural behavior. So if you look at this holistically and critically, you will know that we are indirectly talking about the 5 freedoms of animals. So how do we achieve all this good animal welfare we have been talking about? We look at the health. So when we look at the health of the animal, we must basically prevent disease. We give them good food so that they will be well nourished. And we are going to look at their safety. We must give them appropriate housing system. And when we allow them to graze, we must never allow them to predators. Then we look at their behavior, we give them good management, and we must also provide materials that can aid the expression of their natural behavior, things like environmental enrichment. It can be in form of, for poultry, you can give them peck block, some toners, some patches, and so many other things. Then we look at their states. For them to be in good mental states, there must be good handling, there must be veterinary treatment, good management, good housing, and you give them good food. So basically, we must provide physical and mental needs of the animal, and that is our responsibility as human beings. So it is human that will provide all these things for the animal so that they can achieve good welfare. So it's a responsibility on our part. So how do we measure animal welfare? Basically, we may look at the behavior of the animals. Then we look at their productivity and physiological response. If you look at productivity, Productivity is directly correlated with animal welfare. Animals that are in good state of welfare will give us more egg, more meat, and more milk. If they are allowed to express their natural behavior, that's a good example of animal welfare. Then we'll look at some physiological responses. If you look at this gorilla, you will see what the gorilla is trying to do. It's showing something. People in a zoo, they know more about this. But for the thematic measurement, basically we have to look at three things. For measurement of animal welfare, we look at the normal body function, and that we also call biological function or physical state. So we look at the survival rate of the animal. We look at incidence of disease and their body condition. For body condition, if it is poultry, we'll be looking at feather color. We can also check contact dermatitis, things like foot pad dermatitis, breast blister, feather quality, and ock bone. Those are the things we can check for normal function. So if we have a sense of this, we can say, oh, partly the animal is in a good welfare state. Then we also need to look at the natural behavior. Does the animal express its natural behavior? We need to give them the chance of doing what they will naturally do in the wild. So we look at them, are they performing normal behavior? Are they performing abnormal behavior? We look at the social environment and the physical environment of the animals. Then we look at the mental well-being. This is so important. It's important because animals, they are sentient beings like humans. So they can feel pain, they can be fearful, they can be under stress, they can be joyful, they can be cheerful. Don't also forget they can be hungry. It is when they are hungry, that's when they kick human beings. You see the cattle kicking their owners, and sometimes the dogs, they try to bite some people. So things like that, they are so important. And this is the three thematic method of assessing animal welfare. Look at the normal function, you look at the natural behavior, then you look at the mental well-being. So for now, this is the emphasis. The emphasis is how animals feel. That is the mental state now. Don't forget, I talk about three things. I talk about physical, the mental, and the behavior. So for most of my time today, I will lay emphasis on how the animal feels, the affective state, and their mental health. The mental health of human is important, so as well as that of farm animals. So, and why are we talking about mental health? Why are we talking about affective state? Why are we talking about how animal feels? We are talking about this because animals are sentient. And what do we mean by sentient? If you look at the picture I showed here, trying to look at what sentience means. Sentience means awareness, sensation, sensibility, consciousness, sense, perception, alertness, life, and viability. So all these are present in livestock species. So animals are sentient. So they have sufficient functional brain sophistication to transduce sensory and nerve impulses into experience sensations. So they are more or less like human beings. They can feel pain. They can be joyous. They can be cheerful. They can also be proud, like I mentioned when I started this presentation. And when we talk about sentient animal, we are talking about all animals with backbone or free scent, crabs, octopus, lobster, decapods, and mollusks. They are also sentient beings. So it means we have a lot of sentient animal in the world now. And later in life, I think we are going to have more. And I won't be surprised if at the end of the day, we classify all entity in animal kingdom to be sentient being. So that would be so lovely. So I want us to have some interactive discussion here. If you look at these three pictures that are presented, I have a dog, I have sheep and turkey. I want people to type in the chat box, which of these three animals is happy and which one is sad. We can have more than one. If you know that 2 of them are happy, let me know. If you know that 2 of them are sad, let me know. Let's do that in less than 10 seconds. I want to see people's response, and I need to be sure that people are following me. I need to be sure that people didn't just put on their Zoom and then go away. Oh, no, you can just type it in the chat box. I'm going to see it. Oh, Temitaya is saying the dog looks sad. Oh, dog is sad. Dog, everybody is saying dog. Oh, somebody is saying we need more information to define. Oh, somebody is saying the sheep is sad. The dog is sad. Oh, somebody is saying the turkey is happy. The dog is sad. Oh, the turkey is quite cheerful, at least. Dog and sheep, they are sad. Oh, the dog, turkey happy, turkey happy. Oh, can I get 2 or more responses? Dog, sheep sad, turkey happy. Good. I just did that to be sure that we can really recognize when animals are sad and when they are happy. If you look at the dog is crying. So maybe that shows the dog is sad. Yeah. The dog is sad. Then the sheep has a lot of wool on his body that is going to weigh him down. So the sheep is sad. Then the turkey is kind of lively. If you look at the neck, a lot of blood flow. From my experience with turkeys, the turkey is happy. So if we can identify all these in these animals, it means these animals are sentient beings. And sentience has led to the attribution of importance to affective states. So basically, everybody says the dog is sad. This means the dog is a sentient being. A lot of people said the sheep is sad. It means the sheep is a sentient being. Then a lot of people said the turkey is happy. Oh, good. So it means the turkey is happy. So welfare is now defined in terms of affective state. So when we want to define welfare now, we'll go beyond animal coping with the environment. We'll talk about positive and negative affective state. And affective state has to do with emotion. It has to do with feelings. It has to do with mood. And this can be pain, it can be happiness, it can be fear, it can be joy, it can be fear, it can be, it all depends on how we want to define it. So sentience means a lot to us. So I don't know why my slide is not moving again.
Maybe you unshare and start and share again.
That's what I want to do now. So let's continue with sentience. So animal welfare scientists are moving away from assessment of negative welfare to positive welfare. I think we have enough of fear, pain. Let's talk about how to measure if an animal is happy, if an animal is in good mood. So that's what welfare scientists are really working on now. And we have many, that's why you see many welfare scientists talk about environmental enrichment, because environmental enrichment can be used to induce positive welfare. So these days we talk about positive welfare. So what are the components of affective state? So for affective state, we have different components. We have the behavior, the physiology, and the cognition. And it all depends on the way we want to approach it. So most times, a lot of welfare scientists, we can have a subjective component. You may want to look at behavior and physiology together. You may want to look at behavior and cognition together. It all depends on the way we want to look at it. And we can categorize these affective states by arousal and valence. And when we talk about arousal, we are talking about bodily activation, excitation. And when we talk about valence, we want to know whether the animal is in negative or positive affective state. And this also varies in time course. You can have something like a short term, that can be maybe something like acute pain. You can have something like long term, so something like depression. You may want to wonder, are animals also depressed? Well, that's a question for us to answer. If you look at this cattle, what can we say about it? The cattle look depressed compared to the other ones. So it's possible animals are also depressed. So what is the issue now? There are many ways of assessing negative affective states. At least I've worked on fear behavior. So I know how to measure fear. I know a lot about fear tests. I know how to do tonic immobility. I know I can do attention bias. I know I can do emergence tests. I know I can do a lot of things. But how do I measure positive affective states in animals? It is controversial, and it is also animal dependent. And this got me thinking, how will I identify an animal that is happy? Do we have people, one or two people that want to say something about that? Maybe in the chat box. How will you identify an animal that is happy? I'm looking at the chat box. I want to see. Oh, nobody is saying anything about that. People may not say anything about that because maybe this is controversial. Oh, somebody said facial expression. Oh, that's from Halima. Facial expression. I want to have information from on 2 or more 3 people. Facial expression. Oh, jumping. Jumping? Can we have another person? Can I have another person? Oh, Megan is saying maybe playfulness, wagging of tail. Seun, if I may ask you, just answer this. How do you know a fish that is happy? That is the question for Seun, because Seun is in our fish welfare. So we need to define positive affective states in animals. And we need to define it in various species. So, and the problem we have now is that the method to do this is underdeveloped. So, and that is why I've been thinking here, how will I identify an animal that is happy? My slide is, I think it is when people put something on, it is when people put something in the chat box that it stopped working. So maybe we may need to stop that. So what is the way out? So basically, I'll be talking about 3 things. I will talk about the behavior, the physiology, and the brain. So if an animal is happy, or if the animal is in positive affective state, what kind of behavior does that animal displays? That is number 1. What happens in terms of physiology? And what are the things that is happening in the brain of that animal? So we are going to be looking at these 3 entities now. The most important thing here is this. These 3 entities are the green light. Because if an animal is sad, that is when the animal is in a negative affective state, or if the animal is happy, or when the animal is in positive affective state, something must change in these 3 entities. So the behavior will change, the physiology will change, and brain activities are going to change. So I'll pick them one by one. So if you want to use behavior to assess positive affective state, it is possible. And we are going to look at it in this direction. Behavior is likely to be the closest proxy of positive affective state in farm animals. Why? Because some behavior will be performed when an animal is in positive affective state. So let's look at it from an economic point of view. Basically, we can rank behavior in 2 ways. The first is behavior that regulates deprivation. So if an animal is hungry, the animal will eat. If an animal is thirsty, that animal is going to drink. So those are the behaviors that regulate deprivation. But we have some other behaviors with little regulatory basis, and these are luxuries. And if you look at it from our economic theory, only a small cost is attached the non-performance of this luxury behavior. So welfare will be high when animals engage in this behavior at high frequency. So it is normal that the animal will want to drink and feed. So if the animal does not play, it does not regulate anything. You will only know that if an animal play more, oh, the animal is in positive affective state. So that is the basis for the behavior. And if you want to look at the kind of behavior that can be used to assess positive affective state, I'll be talking about 3 of them. I'll talk about play, I'll talk about affiliative, then species unique specific behavior. So these 3 behaviors can be used to assess positive affective state in farm animals. So let's talk about play. You will see this sheep jumping. So we can assume that this sheep is happy with the way this sheep is playing. So what is play? Play is a purposeless motor activity. So most time, play does not have any purpose. It is an indicator of a positive affective state. So it is assumed that when an animal is playing, that animal is in a state of positive affective, is in a positive affective state. And it is very easy to recognize, and it is performed in most farm animals. So there's no controversy about play. It is performed in poultry, in pig, in sheep, in cattle, and so many other farm animals. And it can be measured non-invasively. So this is a good advantage because it's not an invasive measure of a positive affective state. So it includes food running. We see this in poultry species a lot. You see a chicken that picks maybe an heartworm, and it starts running with it, and other animals start running, a kind of crazy running, frolicking and sparring. So what is sparring? Sparring is jumping, kicking without any forceful contact. That is sparring. Frolicking is running and rapid direction change. So if we want to define play, we say play is a purposeless motor activity. So we don't know the reason why the animal is doing it, but we assume that it is only animals that are in positive affective state that play. So what are the limitations of using play behavior to assess positive affective state? You can see those pigs, they are trying to play, jumping on each other. The lambs, they are doing the same thing. Play diminishes with age. So you only see play behavior in animals that are young. So once the animal are old, they stop playing. So how do you now assess positive affective state in animals that are old using play behavior? So that's a limitation. Don't forget, we are looking at possibility, progress, and problems. So it is possible to use play behavior to assess positive affective state, but this is a problem. It diminishes with age. It is also difficult to differentiate between play and aggression. Sometimes if you don't look very well, you would think 2 animals are playing, whereas they are not. They may be fighting. Another limitation of using play behavior is that some element of play may be a better indicator than the other. So if you want to look at frolicking, food running, and sparring, which one will you pick as a good indicator of positive affective state? So this is so difficult. So let's talk about affiliative behavior. When we talk about affiliative, it includes maintaining proximity to, providing food for, protecting and grooming of conspecific and sometimes maternal care and sexual activity. When affiliative behavior are performed, there's an increase in the production of oxytocin. And we should not forget that oxytocin has to do with happiness. So it means when affiliative behavior are performed, the animal is in a state of positive affective state. Or let me say it's in a state of positive welfare. A good example of affiliative behavior is allogrooming, and this has been associated with reduction in heart rate and increased level of beta endorphin. So we can use affiliative behavior to assess positive affective state in farm animals. So, and what are the limitations of this affiliative behavior? Don't forget that when 2 animals move close to each other, they don't really know whether they want to play, whether they are a threat or they want to fight. So this is a limitation. Because for affiliative behavior, the animal must move close to each other. So if two animals want to groom each other, they have to move close. And when they move close, and you don't know whether the receiver is really enjoying it. So social status of the receiver may modify the benefit. Sometimes the subordinate are stressed when they are licked by dominant ones. And we should not also forget that factors like season, social status, and reproductive stage affect affiliative behavior. For ruminants, you see the mothers, they are trying to lick the newborn babies. And when this baby grow old, it is possible the mother don't lick them again. So the reproductive stage may affect affiliative behavior. Then we can look at species-specific luxury behavior. And this includes the behavior that animals will do when they are in good state. Things like dust baiting in a poultry species, ground scratching, tail wagging in pigs, then preening in birds, water baiting in water beds, hoof stamping, and many more. So if we look at the picture that I have here, this is the work done by Kamerlingh and Husinos in 2020, published in Applied Animal Behavior Science. The position of the tail of the pig is telling us the mental state of the pig. If you look at this, look at how they curve their tail when they are playful. When they are bored, look at the position. When they are calm, look at the position. And when they are fearful, look at the position. So mere looking at the position of the tail of the pig can tell us if the pig is fearful, if the pig is playful, if the pig is bored, and if the pig is calm. But this also has its limitations. Number one is that it is affected by breed and age. And number two is that the function of behavior may differ based on context. You may think preening is indicative of positive affective state, but no. If they are ectoparasite, the bird will also preen more. So this is a problem. So we have talked about play. Let's talk about what happens in the brain when an animal is in positive affective state. Brain is organized into discrete regions and neuronal systems that regulate positive emotions and negative emotions. So if an animal is very happy, there are a lot of things that happen in the brain of the animal. And some parts of the brain are involved in emotion. An example is amygdala and hippocampus. Those two parts, they form part of the limbic system and they are involved in emotion. And some authors have indicated that the amygdala may be a detector of emotional valence. So we talk about arousal and valence. And when we want to pick valence, we have to pick amygdala based on some authors like Anders et al. 2008. So the amygdala is the ideal region to study positive affective state. So in the amygdala, when the animal is in positive affective state, a lot of activities will be going on in that part of the brain. We have more neurogenesis, that's production of more neurons. Then we have increased gene expression, especially the genes that are involved in dopamine pathway. So we can look at the behavior, we can look at the activities in the brain. And if you want to look at activities in the brain, we'll look at the part of the brain that are associated with emotion. We'll look at hippocampus, we'll look at amygdala. So we are giving preference to amygdala because it's talking more about valence, not arousal. So how do we do this? You can just check the gene expression and we'll just check neurogenesis. If you want to check neurogenesis, we'll use some markers like PCNA, DCS, and so many more. Then we'll look at the genes that are involved in dopamine pathway, genes like tyrosine hydroxylase, dopamine beta hydroxylase, and a lot of them. So those are the ones that we'll be checking. But you may want to look at it in this way. Oh, we are talking about brain. Then the animals, we need to die or we need to extract their brain before we can assess this. So this is also another problem. So these are the limitations of using activities in the brain. Number one is that it requires different markers and it is very expensive because it all depends on where you are checking. And the age of the animal that you are checking. We have adult neurogenesis, And we also have neurogenesis when the animal is young. Then various brain imaging technologies such as functional magnetic resonance and electroencephalogram are not suitable for production environment. These are usually located in the lab. There's no way we want to take all these imaging technologies to the production environment. So it's so difficult. It also involves brain extraction and complex laboratory analysis. There was a time I was talking to Dr. Yasere, and we have this information that if you want to work on neurogenesis in chicken, if you are using 24 beds, that will take you around 1 year to do. This is so laborious. So, and it takes a lot of time. So let's look at the physiology now. We have talked about behavior. We have talked about activities in the brain. So let's look at behavioral aspects. Let's look at a physiological aspect now. Some physiological indicators can be used to assess positive affective state in farm animals. We all know that people use indicators such as cortisol. People check the heart rate, immunoglobulins, dopamine, blood glucose, and many more to assess affective state in livestock species. But there's one thing we need to take note. You are checking heart rate, you are checking cortisol, you want to take blood sample or some other samples to do this. And most of these are invasive methods. So, and these are the limitations. You have to catch the animal before you collect the sample. And catching the animal itself is stressful. And that can even increase the cortisol level. Then most of the routes of collection are invasive. Then stress and emotion sometimes will trigger the same physiological response, especially when we are talking about cortisol. For example, if an animal is stressed, there is elevated, there is increase in production of cortisol. If an animal is in a state of ecstasy, maybe during ejaculation, we still have increase in cortisol production. So how do you now differentiate between positive and negative affective state? So it's so difficult here. Like I said, the sexual pleasure can lead to increased glucocorticoid and heart rate. And another thing is this, there is variability of physiological indicators based on the route of collection. So if you are looking at cortisol, let's say you want to pick cortisol, the blood cortisol, the saliva, the urine, and the fecal. So the results you are going to be getting will vary. And it also depends on the type of diet you are giving to the farm animal. So if you look at all this now, we have talked about the progress. It is possible to do it. We have talked about the problems. So what is now the way out? Then we need a multimodal approach to solve this problem. And if we want to go for this, we need an approach that is cheap. We need an approach that is non-invasive. We need an approach that will produce high-quality data that is reliable. Don't forget, a lot of people will tell you using cortisol to measure stress is not reliable. So we need high-quality data that is reliable. We want it to be automated to save time and labor. So I don't seem to see my screen again. So we need to save time. We don't want to carry big machines to the farm. So we need to track affective state of individual animals. So we need something like a sensor technology. So none of the methods I have described in terms of behavior, in terms of activities in the brain, and in terms of physiology have all these attributes. So we need a multimodal approach. So, and what is this multimodal approach going to involve? We need a multidisciplinary approach that will combine ethology. We need an approach that will combine welfare science, computer science, engineering, tracking technology, neuroscience, genetics, physiology, immunology, and a lot more. And we need to use sensors so that we can monitor indirect, we can use an indirect method to do all this. So, and the future is artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So artificial intelligence and machine learning will solve all these problems. So my parting conclusion is that if we really want to assess positive affective states, we need to look far beyond, bring and combine a lot of sciences, combine neurobiology, genetics, welfare, computation science, and a lot. So AI and machine learning should be able to solve all the problems. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation on assessing positive affective states in animals. What is the place of the use of anticipatory behavior to assess positive affective states in animals?
That's a very good question. It's workable, but all the behaviors that we are considering, they have their limitations. So most times, if we want to find a way around it, we need to combine a behavior with some other things. So it can't be behavior alone. We need to go more than behavior. For example, somebody was talking about facial expression system. That is easy in large mammals, but we cannot use that. We cannot really use that in a poultry species. So anticipatory behavior is a good means of assessing positive affective state, but it has its own limitations.
I understand the need to use high technology, but will this be accessible for African countries?
That's a lovely question. One thing I want us to take note is this. We have the expertise in Africa also, and we have the resources. I think the most important thing here is willingness. If we are using the best type of car in the world, then we can also use the best type of technology. So it is accessible for countries in Africa. That's just the simple answer to the question. It's just the willingness to do it. So are we ready to invest in that kind of technology? If we are ready, we have the money, we have the resources, we have the expertise, we can do it.